just get into it. So the rebel uprising was wildly successful. Like overnight, they managed to connect all of their forces and are currently heading towards Damascus. There are heavy preparations in Damascus to prevent rebel forces from capturing it. But the rebel forces over here, supported by the US, are threatening to cut off Damascus and Homs. This is catastrophic for the Assad regime. If they do this, then there are basically going to be two pockets that cannot supply each other. Damascus is going to be its own pocket, and Homs and the coastline are going to be another. Homes and the coastline can still get supported and given supplies to by the Russians through their ports, but it's gonna be a struggle because vast majority of the population and probably military personnel is from Damascus down here. Uh, I would think, or at least if the generals of the Syrian army aren't complete idiots, which it would appear that they are, there would probably be, well, if I was in the position, I would probably keep Homs and pray to God to somehow manage to maintain control of this highway leading toward Damascus and establish the front like this to prepare against this ongoing horde from down here, up here, and down here. The Syrian government has lost so much territory. Heading towards Kurds, it doesn't appear that the Kurds are doing much. They are still capturing some territory over here, but it's mostly empty, and I would have expected them to push farther and with more vigor, which they are not doing. Probable reason for this is because they wanna keep their defenses over here and maybe strengthen their borders because they know when the HTS forces deal with Assad, they're heading for them. So they are not moving anywhere. This area is still allegedly under the Assad regime's control, although, I mean, there's nobody here, so yeah. Again, state these guys are moving up here. The US is still bombing ISIS, which is to be expected. We have not seen much from Israel bombarding Lebanon, although the Israeli government has stated that they might intervene in the Syrian conflict and establish like a buffer zone over here. Will they do it? Probably not, but it's still a possibility that they stated that they might do. Also, what's the most concerning thing for the Assad forces is that the rebels down here captured vast quantities of supplies, so they probably can take Damascus all by themselves, unless these guys cut off Damascus from the reinforcements. But they, by themselves, probably cannot take Damascus, but they can siege it and like basically make the Assad forces waste their resources and manpower defending both Damascus, this highway, and Homs. Also, they also need to protect this area as well to safeguard the ports that they have to receive Russian shipments. Uh, I really don't know how Assad is gonna fare. We haven't seen, like on Twitter, I saw many people saying that they haven't lost much manpower, which is true. We haven't seen their forces suffering heavy amounts of manpower loss. But what we did saw is them losing vast quantities of armored vehicles, which is arguably even worse because let's say HTS forces from what we saw in the beginning of the war, they would go like 5 kilometers, then they would lose of their oil and vehicles. Well, they wouldn't lose their vehicles, but they wouldn't move forward because they wouldn't have enough supplies, and then they would capture some Assad regime base, and they would basically gain all those things back. Like logistics weren't a big problem for them, and then they would just use that to continue forward. It is yet to be seen what how they are gonna fare now that that is no longer an option. The Assad forces are not gonna fight anymore. They are gonna stand their ground. So we shall see how the HTS forces are gonna perform now. Uh, Yeah, that's about it. The ISIS, again, we haven't heard much from them, which is to be expected. They're getting bombed by the US. Also, one thing that I wanted to mention is why these forces probably can't take on Damascus. In the Battle of Aleppo, it took the government forces 4+ years with the support of the Russian Air Force to basically manage to take that city, and it was still a heavy and bloody fight, and they didn't manage to take it. Also, I heard some rumors in like the Russian channels that the Assad forces and the loss of the Assad forces and their territory isn't a big deal because in the counterattack they are gonna regain it just as fast. And I think that that's just fucking copium. Like again, look at the Battle of Aleppo. It took them 4 fucking years, and the heavy losses of manpower and equipment to regain the city. Do you think that now it's gonna be any better? No, it's gonna probably be far worse because Russians lost a lot of their equipment in Ukraine. They did gain some experience, but I don't know how much conventional war experience is gonna translate to semi-conventional war, semi-guerrilla fighting down here. Plus, the Turks are always gonna be ready to supply the HTS forces with like anti-aircraft guns, artillery, or missiles. Also, the rebels captured much of the Russian equipment that they seized from the Assad force, the bases of the Assad regime, like a bunch of med pads. I think it's like Strela med pads. So they managed to take that. They also took Dishkas and all that. So I don't know. I think they are just coping. But yeah, if you like this video, drop a like and subscribe. So yeah, bye.